Update here, if they're just joining us, the IDF has killed Ibrahim Biari, who was hiding among civilians. So they're taking out terrorists, they're taking out their infrastructure as they continue their ground offensive here. And at the end of the day, they say they've now lost 317 IDF soldiers. We knew this would be a very bloody battle, but they are taking on casualties as they try to eradicate Hamas.
Indeed. So the IDF is conducting an expanded ground operation in Gaza, as we said we would, following the October 7th massacre. Again, it's not a war that we wanted. It's not even a war that we expected. We were dragged into it by Hamas after they massacred us. This is why we're operating in Gaza right now. And the specific operation that you referred to has led to the killing of a top Hamas commander. We said that we will come after the perpetrators of that massacre, one after the other. And that's exactly what we're doing, Bianca. He was hiding along with other more terrorists underground under that space, that the Jabalia field that we struck. And unfortunately, they're hiding underneath and behind civilians. That's what they're doing. That's a cynical use that Hamas is known for, hiding behind human shields. And, every time that Israel is taking the fire for that, it actually incentivizes Hamas to use the sick method again and again. So we want to see the international pressure on Hamas, because we know that international pressure is working on them. That's why they released some of the hostages. That's why we see some of the foreign nationals maybe coming out of the Gaza Strip. So we need more pressure on Hamas, and that's really, really important that the international community understands that.
Does seem like a lot of the media, though, as you've alluded to, Ben, is not asking the proper questions here, and there's a focus on the humanitarian aid, and but they have a gate right now. They could let the aid in. They could let the hostages out. There is clearly an effort here not to let Americans out. What would you like to hear today from the State Department, Ben? What question would you like to get answered as Matthew Miller takes the podium? What's not being asked in your mind here as far as the U.S.'s response, whether it be from Blinken, maybe going over to Doha to try and demand that Americans be released?
Yeah, so beyond obviously pressuring the other Arab nations in the region to do their part to ameliorate this crisis, I think the question is a very simple one. The Biden administration has gone out of its way from the start to put the screws to Israel, and particularly Benjamin Netanyahu's government. They have continued to try and micromanage this effort, supply quote-unquote humanitarian aid and condition actions on that aid, which basically resupplies Hamas. They've called for Israel not to knock out Hamas's communications and have tried to control what the end outcome is here. So while the U.S. is micromanaging Israel, by the same token, it is doing nothing to exert maximum pressure on Iran in the way of doing no harm. Where is the snapback of sanctions? Where is the enforcing of the sanctions on the oil sales that fund that regime? Where is the pressure on Qatar, threatening to revoke its status as an ally on par with Israel, remove our troops from the base there? It's not exerting any of that pressure. Why all the pressure on Israel and none on Iran?
So I want to ask that to Tal. So if the U.S. is meddling, and the UN has been no friend really either with letting some of those sanctions lapse, Tal, what's your reaction to some of the points that Benjamin's making?
Well, we are very grateful for the Biden administration's support, moral support and moral global leadership, because we are facing an inflection point in history here where Israel is on the front lines of a war of the civilized world against Hamas's savagery. This is a jihadist Nazi-like ideology, and we've seen jihadist Nazi-like atrocities. These are the words, by the way, of the German chancellor who was here, and he said that what he's seen here is really Nazi level, what transpired here on October 7th. But what I and the state of Israel will want to see is really ratcheting up the pressure on Hamas. Where are all the protests around the world against Hamas? When people put the pressure on Israel, it's not serving. It's not helping anyone, not Palestinian civilians and not Israelis, obviously. Where is the widespread coverage of different media outlets of, what Hamas have done,
well, sadly,
what they are, their true...
And I don't need to tell you this. Sadly, we are seeing the protests, and they are anti-Israel. We have a junior at Cornell University now facing a federal judge in Syracuse today for some very serious comments he made online against Jewish students there. It is awful. I wish we had more time. Tal, Ben, appreciate you joining us today here on Newsline. We'll see you back here soon, definitely.